Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, addressing crime. Also, will lawmakers let the Cannabis Commission off the hook? And What is a Woman Act is getting a big push.
Hello! Ah! Oh, I'm sorry to frighten you, dear. I must look like a yeti in this get-up.
Are you confused? I'm not. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR. Welcome.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. You say something?
What's up?
What's up? They're back in session.
Oh, God.
So you gotta hide your wallet, your women, and your liquor. Because the legislature's back in town,
oh, Jesus.
Right? At least that's what we used to say. Hide your women, your wallet, and your liquor. But Governor Ivey started off on Tuesday with the state of the state. And overall, I thought she did a good presentation of where the state is and where she wants to go. There's no doubt that Governor Ivey is in charge. And she has a specific agenda that she wants to get down. But I felt, Josh, that she was at her most comfortable and powerful when she talked about economic development and how much the state has grown economically, rather than the other issues that she covered. I felt there was a little, wasn't all. I mean, that was a more powerful moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you see this a lot with people now who try to play into the MAGA world a little bit, and they're not really comfortable in doing it because for their entire careers, especially Kay Ivey, she's been a sane individual that governed in a sane manner, and so now to throw in some of these social issues and culture war things and stuff, it doesn't really fit with her style of how she governs, and so. I think you're right. When she leans into things that actually matter to people, the economic development things and stuff like that, those things are where she's in a comfort zone, and you can really tell it. And not to mention, those things are most often where our legislators, the folks who go in there and take it seriously, they do their best work, and you can see it reflected in the bills and stuff that come out of it. All the economic development bills that were passed last year and stuff, those were some of the best written and most comprehensive bills that we had. Is because the people they knew they were doing good things for good people and trying to help folks out. And I think they took a lot of pride in that. Whereas some of this other stuff, I think a lot of them know that this is nonsense and they're placating to morons.
I mean, Susan, Governor Ivey has always been about the policies and not the politics. And that's her strength. So I was a little surprised when she came up with the What is a Woman bill.
I was very surprised about that because she's always been about policy and not politics. She's been that for her entire career. So when she came out with these hot button issues in there, I was absolutely flabbergasted that she was speaking on this because that's just not her style.
Yeah.
Because she's really about getting work done, getting progressing the state forward, and not about hot button issues.
Yeah,
I was just really, really, really surprised that was in the speech at all.
And I don't know, I know Susan DuBose is the one who's championed this, and now April Weaver in the Senate, and it's passed out of Senate committee. But why grammatically is it not who is a woman? Is a woman a what? I thought a woman was a who.
A woman is a nothing in this state. A woman is a nothing in this state.
But it's kind of sad, isn't it, that we're down to this kind of thing?
Well, I mean, why isn't who is a man bill? I mean, you really want to go down this road in that, we have no rights here. We're second-class citizens. We're paid less than men. We have absolutely no reproductive choices in our life. You're
Yeah.
surprised that it's what is a woman and
they could
what
say-
or who?
I
That
mean-
they don't care.
Josh, I think you could actually answer that. What is a woman? Maybe she's just right next to a slave.
Pretty much.
Yeah, right.
Barefoot and pregnant, baby.
I keep waiting on the women, especially the white suburban women, to realize that they're included in the DEI stuff.
Yes, sir, we are.
Keep hearing
Yeah.
about, and people keep trashing left and right, and also along with veterans and other folks that are part of these DEI programs as well. That's what they're meant to do, is to make sure that folks get fair shots and rectify some past problems. And it would be nice if some folks took notice of some of the things Susan said.
Yeah. Well, I think Governor Ivey overall was a good speech, except for the hot button issues. She did on the next day introduce her crime package, which, again, good and bad. Susan?
Well, we've got the Glock switch issue, which is, it's an important part of the legislation that they're trying to pass, because it is just absolutely ridiculous that instead of one bullet at a time, you can fire like 100 bullets at a time. It's something that absolutely needs to be dealt with.
Josh, a lot of this seems to have bipartisan support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does. And, I think that, the Glock switch stuff is a good step. It is. But, until we start addressing some of the underlying issues.
That's correct.
With crime and, and really taking those things seriously. And, we can pound our fists and talk about locking people up and be outraged and hold press conferences and go to crime scenes and tell people we're going to lock them up and throw away the key. But, that doesn't bring anybody's family member back. It doesn't bring back, it doesn't stop the injuries from these gun violence victims that are out there. And so until we figure out a way to stop these things before they happen, and I know that's a kind of a crazy phrase, but that's essentially what we're looking for here, is to stop them before they happen. And we have to do the things that we know work to solve crime, especially among young people. Right. There's so many teenagers in our bigger cities who are going to jail for killing people. It's unbelievable.
We got to start with mental health. We got to start with broken families. We got to start at the grassroots of what's causing this.
Because
not just addressing the guns, not just addressing locking people up, but what is actually causing the problems.
And I think that's part of it. I did not take away from this that this was a simply tough on crime. More police, more community intervention. But again, like you said, Josh, and we've talked before, it is a systemic problem going back to poverty, broken families, education, those things. And I think tangentially we're doing some of that. But we have a history in Alabama of neglecting poor communities and black communities.
You mean by taking $7,000 per child out of the education budget?
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well, leave those inner city children to be even further uneducated?
You mean they can't get in some Mountain Brook school?
That's not happening.
Listen, it is until you make people value life. And by doing that, you have to value theirs, because there's a long step between somebody, between that Glock switch and somebody picking it up and using it, actually.
Yes,
by
sir.
a crowd of people.
Yes, sir.
And there's something that's wrong that's happened to those folks that we failed as a society with them. And you can say it's their fault or whatever, but you know what? We have an opportunity to stop that and to stop the terror and to stop the death and destruction that's going on if we just cared a little bit more about some of these folks.
Well, we're going to have to let that be the last word. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Speed is one of the biggest factors in a fatal car crash. Your car stops, but your body does not stop at the same time. Your body keeps going, and that could be running into your seatbelt, that could be hitting the airbag. Something has to stop it, and unfortunately, it's something very hard.
There have been times that we've come upon accidents where if people weren't speeding, they'd probably still be alive today.
It's truly dangerous, and it puts everybody at risk.
There's just no point to it.
This kind of stuff has got to stop.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Just before the legislative session began on Tuesday, ALGOT, the Alabama GOP, released its list of priorities, and it looks like many of them came straight from The Handmaid's Tale, or at least the MAGA playbook, and most of them do nothing to move the state forward. They're just talking points from the National Republican Party, and they have little application to do good here in Alabama. Josh, it reads like a list of just the most outrageous things they can come up with to control people. It's all about control.
Yeah. It's this is why we talked a couple of weeks back when the Democrats introduced their platform, and I said at the time that I thought it was pretty ingenious of them to focus on expanding freedom, because the other side of this is doing the exact opposite. As they talk about, who you can love, what bathroom you can go into, how you're going to punish immigrants who are here doing all the labor that we don't want to do. Some of this stuff is honestly, it's mean spirited.
Yeah.
It's callous towards people. It encourages discrimination. It just, I don't know how you sit down and do this and then head on off to church on Sunday and hear those lessons. Everybody knows I'm not a big church guy, but my God, man.
Well, if loving your neighbor like you love yourself, well, that's out the window, or either these guys really loathe themselves. But Susan, this is not representative necessarily of the legislature as a whole or of the Republican Party as a whole. This is the hardcore, go to every meeting, attend everything, folks, that back this. And you and I know this. There used to be a time when the Republican Party operated by trying to persuade you to see their point of view. Now, they just want to make a law that you have to accept their point of view. And that's not American, and that's not democratic.
No, it's not.
That's
and
not
they want to
Republican.
lock you into their point of view and make you recite it and wrap it all in Christianity, which has nothing to do with what they're trying to do. Jesus was accepting and loving of all people, all races, all, whether you were transgender or not. And it did happen back then. I'm sorry to break that to everybody. But yes, it did exist then.
Yes.
He was accepting of everyone. These people are wanting to conquer and divide. And but like you said, I don't think it's very representative of our legislature.
No.
This has to do with John Wall and the ALGOP.
And there's some in the legislature that fall right
Well,
into
yes,
this,
of
but
course. I was trying to be nice.
Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Yeah, man, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but if we're going to keep saying that, then some of these folks are going to have to take a little bit of a stand, and knock down some of this stuff and say publicly what they say privately to us and to others about this nonsense that goes on. Because let me tell you what happens is they let it sit out there and they let it gather steam or whatever, and then all of a sudden it finds its way into a governor's speech.
Yeah.
It festers like a pimple.
These things get normalized and they're nonsense. They're hurtful to people, and it's just. I think if they want to continue to get us to view them in the best possible light, then they need to step into the light every now and then.
Well, and let's face it, courage among the GOP is not recommended, because they are terrified of the base They're terrified of the people that really want to control and dictate things. They're terrified of them. I mean, we've seen it in Congress where they know somebody's absolutely not qualified, but they vote for them because they don't want the backlash. But I want to move on to something that's very, very positive, I think. Lawmakers are pushing for veterans resource centers. And this, Susan, is something that we need here in the state to give more resources to the men and women who have served in uniform in our country. And it looks like a good idea, even though some of the, it looks like a good idea.
At least we're starting somewhere. You and I are both children of World War II veterans. We understand what veterans go through, even 40 years after they've served. We've seen all this, so we know what we're talking about in it. At least we're starting somewhere. It may not be perfect, but at least we've got a start that we can start to work on this. And giving the veterans the resources they need, the mental health they need, and all of those things. At least a positive start.
And we're all children of veterans here. Josh, one thing I like about this is the public-private partnership. And I know some of our biggest companies in the state are really behind this because they want to help the people who have kept us safe.
Yeah, listen, I think there are a lot of good aspects to it. It's time that we've done something. The veterans, man, we make a lot of promises to those folks,
False promises.
and we do a really poor job of keeping them in most cases. And this is one of the promises that we made, that we'll provide them the health care and mental health care that are required to fix the problems that we created by what we sent them into. Yeah. And that's what's happened here. I mean, we've caused these problems. We love to talk about how, it's the land of the free because of the brave. Well, the brave need some help every now and then.
Yeah, they do.
And, and we've done a pretty piss poor job of giving it to them.
Yeah. No, and I used to go with my dad and to the VA hospital and stuff, and it's pretty good, but it's not, at least back then, it was not the type of quality that you would get at a UAB, say. Better.
No, I mean, and the Veterans Center here in Alabama was better than the one in North Carolina. So it varies by state. However, the one in Alabama has declined over the last 20 years to not be as good as it was back then.
But I think giving these people mental health support, job placement, social services to ease their lives, to make their lives better.
Well, to get them to transition back, because you go from having a normal life to go to absolute chaos and seeing all the things that they see. They've got to have resources to be able to deal with that and then transition back into society. And we've got to make that very clear.
Well, I commend this effort. I think it's long overdue, and we appreciate the effort that's going into it. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. In the case of things that couldn't be more absurd, there has been a bill introduced, Josh, you've written about it, that would indemnify, I think is probably maybe a good word.
That's a good word.
The Alabama Cannabis Commission from following the law of Alabama in the Open Meetings Act what is the one there specific there, Josh?
Alabama Administrative Procedures.
Yes, the Alabama Administrative Procedures Act, which they have clearly circumvented time and time again.
No, they tap danced on it.
Yeah, they did the 125th Street Shuffle.
But
did. Josh, the absurdity that we look at these people and they clearly, it seems to me, in my opinion, broke the law, and yet we're going to pass a bill that says, it's okay, break the law. This is again the GOP wanting to change the rules in the middle of the game. Like you've hired a bad team in the commissioners. You've got a bad team, but so instead of changing the team out, you go on the field and go, hey, we're putting in a whole new bunch. No, they're not doing that. They're saying our guys are immune from any of the rules of this game.
No, they just take the rules of the game out on the sidelines and leave it just Harry Carey.
Well, they just all right. So people will understand. All right, the reason that we don't have medical marijuana flowing to people right now is because the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission failed to follow the Alabama Administrative Procedures Act, and by that I mean when they awarded licenses, the folks who did not get a license were supposed to be able to file for investigatory hearings. Okay, that's part of our Administrative Procedures Act, and the reason that we have that is because whenever you have a state agency that is going to award a license to a pool of applicants in which there are more applicants than there are licenses, we have to set up a system in there to make sure that nobody's brother-in-law is getting a license out of this thing, all right, and that everything is fair. And so the folks who are qualified to get a license and don't receive one can challenge those decisions and say, hey, wait a minute, I want you to prove to me why you didn't give us one and you gave, Bill and Susan one, and so that's what was missing. It's what's always been missing in this. And it's the reason why it's hung up in court right now.
Right.
And so the solution to any normal human being would be just go back and follow the damn law.
Yeah.
Why don't we just go back and let them follow it? The solution to our legislature is we'll just get rid of the law. Don't worry about that law anymore. We're going to get rid of that law and you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-boggling to watch this play out, to know that they didn't follow this stuff and that there's some real questions about why some people were awarded a license because they don't have the facilities.
No.
They didn't have the insurance they were supposed to have. They don't appear to be able to get up and running within the 60-day time frame. And I think all of those questions would have come out in these investigatory hearings, and maybe these companies could answer those things, but we never had the opportunity to hear any of it, and now they just want to do away with it.
Right.
Well, and because all this has been protecting certain individuals who made decisions that are questionable, and it's about protecting their backside, Susan.
It is about protecting their backside. I mean, a couple of these companies actually would have to mow the grass to build a facility before they could get up and running in 60 days. Okay, it's ridiculous. They just, if you want to do something responsible, it's like Josh said, reset the clock. Okay, but you can't give these folks a pass on what they have done illegally. Yeah. And we all know they've done it illegally. They know they've done it illegally, and they're terrified of what the outcome's going to be from that.
Yeah.
So they're hiding behind this. This is why we got all the lawsuits and all of this. And just, if anything, legislature, please just make them start over. That's the simplest solution.
There are a couple of good things in this bill. One is that instead of having the scoring the way we had it, which you would have one applicant get some scorers would give them a 1, in other words, the best rating, and then another one would give them a 29 or 30, which made it all fluctuate so extremely, is to bring in someone like Moody's, who can look at all these facilities and these individual companies and go to the sites and everything, and then score them.
But you've taken the politics out of it.
Well,
you've taken the money out of it on the backside.
Go ahead.
Why have we got the commission then? So what we've done is we've put up a group of grown people there to do this job, and we've said, you've sucked so bad at doing this job we're going to leave you in place, but now we're going to go and hire a real professional to do this job.
Well, that's what the bill says. That's what the bill
I
says.
agree with bringing somebody in impartially, absolutely. But like Josh said,
Listen,
fire
I'm
the
all
commission,
for
get them out of here.
Yeah, I'm all for replacing the commission in this process, okay? Or or whoever's in charge of running this show over there. All right, I'm all for that and doing something different or just starting over. But you can't just go out and hire another whole group and say we're going to continue to pay these people over here to do nothing. Read whatever this other people do. We can all read what they put out. Why do we need them?
How much more money are we going to pour into this over people who can't actually do the job and follow the rules? We're going to hire Moody's. We're going to pay the commission for 2 years. We're going to pay all these legal fees. How much money are we going to put into this?
Well, obviously,
it's got to
as much
stop
as it
somewhere.
takes to protect people, for them to be protected. I mean, look, there is no company in the world that would tolerate the failure of leadership that has happened over at AMCC.
How stinking fast would I start firing employees?
I mean, Josh, you couldn't get a line at assembly plant if they worked this bad. These people just would be fired. But yet everybody is still there. Nobody has been fired. John McMillan's still there. Those lawyers are still there.
Well,
the
the
people
lawyers are
that
making
screwed
tons of
it up
money.
from
Why
the
wouldn't they
beginning
be there?
are still there. I mean,
yeah. It's not a complicated situation. It's really not.
No.
It's the people try to make it into this absurdly complicated thing, and it's not. There's a set of rules that were put in place for them to follow. There's a set of rules that govern how we hand out licenses in the state of Alabama, and you marry those two things together and put this thing. What they did was create an entire other process that didn't follow any of those things. And they didn't follow the laws that the legislature wanted to put in place, the requirements of the companies, and then they didn't follow the Administrative Procedures Act when they started trying to figure out who was going to get a license. And so it has been a failure from the very start of this thing. And I think there are some good people involved in this. And I hesitate to even blame the commission because I think in a lot of ways they got bad advice from the people who were guiding them.
Well, that's what I mean.
Doing these procedures.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's in the people, it's John McMillan, the people that he hired and that he did not fire, and that he's been let to go on and on and on and on and on with failure. That's it. But anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. I want to thank you for being with us today. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.